Why did that happen? That happened because the general executor, which those of you that see I changed my screen name, or my profile name, the general executor is the most powerful one in this country, in all countries, okay? The general executor is the one over the dead guy's estate. That would be, here they call, like a lot of people here in the United States of America, they talk about American national, okay? Well, that's a general executor. The general executor is an American national. The general executor in another country may not be a quote American national, obviously, they're not in America, but some sort of national, okay? So it's the same thing. They've created an account, they've created a name, or they've taken your name rather, and they've bastardized it and turned it into a state-created name. They've given you this, and you've never claimed it. You've never come back to claim this property. Okay, so now when you answer to your John Henry Doe, no matter what it is, okay, you are misappropriating the funds of the account. You are misadministrating that organization without authority, because you're just considered an idiot in the law. You're considered a minor, an idiot, one that's incompetent. That's why you need someone to attorney for you as an attorney. Okay, these are all pieces of why you're seeing what you're seeing today being forced upon you, because you don't know who you are in relation to who the government thinks you are. They assume you are, and that's the whole thing. It's all presumption and assumption. Once you destroy that assumption and presumption by actually stating who you are in the mix of who they are, their house of cards falls. And they follow that law. They have to follow that law because it's treason if they don't. It's called estate law, trust law, basically. It's the law of trust. And people say, oh, the state doesn't follow the law. They don't follow the law. They never follow the law. They follow the law when you know how to apply it in the world of trust. If you're in there fighting with statutes and codes and all this, municipal government corporation law, if you will, of course they don't have to listen to that. They're the corporation. They can do whatever they want when you put them in a corporate status. When you put them in a trust status, that doesn't happen anymore. They can't just arbitrarily do what they want. It's a ministerial duty that they have. A ministerial duty is non-judicial, which means they don't have the right to decide what they're going to follow and what they're not. The order comes, ministerial means the order comes from a higher authority to them. So when you're in a trust situation and you're the executor, you're the highest one in the land. And you give them the order of what to do. This is why when I did my recent arrest, and like I say, when I did my recent arrest, I did that on purpose so that I could show, this is how we operate. We see that these police officers, these judges, these officers of the government, they don't know how to operate when someone has their rights intact. It's almost been completely removed from the system. These guys aren't taught that. They're just taught, follow corporate policy. This is what you do on a daily basis. Here's the process. Okay? Oh, and by the way, if someone comes in here and knows how to stand on their rights and assert them, here's what you do. So people like myself that understand how to firmly plant our rights and take possession of our property that the government has stolen and created this fictional person out of, people like that, like myself, these judges are given information on how to handle someone like that. But they're not taught how to apply your rights that are protected by certain or documents like the Constitution, things like that. They don't know how to apply it. So whenever I go into a courtroom or somebody that I'm working with and I, educate them on how to conduct themselves, when they go into a courtroom, the judges freak out because they don't know what to do. Like in my most recent hearing, the judge was shaking. He was so scared. And he kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to be respectful of your rights. I'm just trying to be respectful of your rights. And I'm thinking, dude, you're a judge. You should already know what my rights are, but you're trying to be respectful of my rights. Meanwhile, you're completely diminishing and violating them, right? That's what he was doing, totally violating my rights, but he had no idea he was doing it. That's the system we're up against. They've made ignorance a weapon. Ignorance on both sides of the fence. Ignorance on us and ignorance on these officers of the government. Whether they're executive, legislative, or judicial, doesn't matter. They're ignorant. They're completely ignorant. And they think that just because their superior told them that this is what you do, that is the law. And it's not. It's not even close to the law. So, yesterday, the gentleman in Santa Cruz, called me up just praising, the work. But for me, it was a really big eye-opener to see that there was a court investigator involved. And the court investigator was there for him, not the court, making sure that the court was not going to interfere or make a mistake on his rights as the executor over the estate, as the quote-unquote conservator, if you will. Okay? Now, here's another piece of evidence that this is very powerful, that the executor of the estate is very, very powerful. So, my girlfriend and I changed our straw man, if you will, I don't even like the word straw man, so I'm going to call it our organization, okay? We changed our organization's address. We put a change of address in. The post office is extremely powerful, not the USPS. The USPS is simply a corporate overlay. There's actually about 6 different post office offices in the law that were never repealed. There's like the post office department, the postal department, things like that. And don't quote me on that, but I do know for a fact that there are several post office departments that were created and never repealed. The USPS being the last one so far is just a corporate overlay. It's nothing more than UPS or FedEx. That's all the USPS is. But the post office is underneath of that. It still sits beneath it and is extremely powerful. Okay, the post office has its own bank. That's why when they go, oh, we're almost broke, we need you to buy stamps and all that, they're talking about the USPS. They're not talking about the post office. The post office has to come before any country can be formed. Okay, that's why they formed in the very first act of Congress. They laid out where the post office was going to be. However, the post office has the ability to create judgments and things like that. Okay, so put that aside. We changed the address from our organization. All right, my all capital letter name, file number, which is the birth state file number on the birth certificate or certificate of live birth. They're the same. File number is the same, and we put it as a business name, and then we put the address, the old address, as the vital statistics of the state where we were born, and the new address for our address now, done a certain way. You got to be careful. You can't just put your address with the zip code and all that, because that's a federal zone thing and you have to mail it a specific way. Anyway, my point is, we did this with the vital statistics, we did it with the birth hospital, and we did it with the Social Security Administration. So far, we've gotten one return back confirming our change of address. And the interesting thing is, the name is in all capital letters, and on the end it says trust. We didn't put trust in there. We said nothing about trust. So, the law is still there. You cannot break the law. You cannot take the law away. You can overlay it, and you can create illusion that you call law, but the real law is always there. And that is the trust. That trust comes from above, below, right? the trust is so important. All trusts are important. Anybody that knows anything about the elite of the world, the Bill Gates and all, they all use trusts. This is why they don't pay taxes, because they don't have any money. Okay, their trusts have money. They don't have money. Their organizations have money. They don't have money. These people know not to use their social security number for anything, and it's all protected. Okay, that's why that social security number is a slave number. If you've registered to vote, you've agreed to be a slave. You cannot, in this country, you cannot be registered to vote and expect to be free. You cannot. You cannot change that system as a voter. Because in order to be a voter, you have to be a United States citizen. You cannot be a United States citizen. A United States citizen is a federal citizenship that exists in the 10-mile square of Washington, D.C., the military bases, arsenals, and any lands sold to the United States by the legislature of the state. Okay? If there's lands in a state that are considered federal, they have to be sold properly through the legislative process to the federal government. That's where a United States citizen is from. And that's in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution. You cannot have a United States citizen that lives in a state or is born in a state. If you were born in a state, you are a national. You are not a U.S. citizen. You've been tricked into being a U.S. citizen. You've been pulled into the cultism of patriotism. You've been pulled into that cult to vote and fight for your rights and all this, but you don't have any of that. So you can't be a U.S. citizen. In my opinion, the first thing people should do is rescind that stuff. Get rid of it. Terminate it. Terminate that voter contract. Terminate terminate your taxes. Terminate that stuff. You don't have. There is not a law that makes income tax mandatory. The 16th Amendment was not properly ratified. That's what they used to say that they have a right to income tax. No, that thing was complete sham, just like the 14th Amendment. Okay, wasn't properly ratified. Taxes, therefore, are voluntary. You're just forced into volunteerism, basically. However, again, what they're doing is creating an estate. There's a piece of property that's created at birth. Your name is property. They've taken that and they've created an estate, meaning other pieces of property off of that. One who is holding that property for the benefit of another is a trustee, a fiduciary. That's a trust relationship. That's the government. Okay? They're in a fiduciary position. But they're not in a fiduciary position as a municipal corporation. Okay? A municipal corporation is just like any other corporation. It has to do, it's there, the municipal corporation is there so it can do business with the people. Right? Just look it up. Look up legal definition of municipal corporation. Freedictionary.com will come up. It's a huge definition. It tells you right in there that municipal corporation allows basically government entities to do business with people, right? With the public. Do business. So in order to do business, you have to have a contract with someone. You can't just arbitrarily pull them over on the side of the road and give them a revenue ticket for your municipal corporation unless you have a contract. Now, people will say, oh, driver's license is the contract. Well, that's true. It is. And there is a way to manage that contract where you don't have to get rid of your tags and all that. People say, you got to get rid of your tags. You've got to, deregister your car. And I agree with that. I do agree. However, it's dangerous to do that right now because we have ignorance on the other side. And if you don't completely understand what you're doing and you haven't done it right, you're going to really suffer for it. Okay? Again, the key is being the general executor of the estate because the executor has the right to administrate that property, administrate those contracts, all right, and not be liable to them. Because they're at arm's length, they're exonerated. Just read about an executor, what an executor does for an estate when someone dies. And then picture in your mind that the dead person in the text that you're reading about executor is your artificial person that's created, your person and your estate. Okay, a conservator, read about conservator. A conservator is appointed by a court to take over for someone that's incompetent, what they would be called a legal idiot, someone that's incompetent. The conservator takes over either the estate or the person, or both. Okay, the word person means persona, to wear a mask. It does not mean, and it can mean, but it's not specific to a human being. It is broad. So a person means a corporation, an LLC, a partnership. Just look that up in go in any statutes, section of statutes of a state, and go into the definition section, and most of the definition sections will have the word person, and it'll say a corporation, an LLC, a trust, this and that. So a person is not just a human being. It might also say a natural person to include a human being, but it's also these other things. Okay? So the law deals in persons. It doesn't deal in people. It doesn't deal in men and women. So, in dealing with persons, everything is in trust. So trusts are extremely important to understand, and they're not difficult to understand. A trust, very simply, is a relationship between a few people, okay? Typically three, okay? A grantor who grants property to someone to hold for someone else, which is a beneficiary. That's a trust. So if I go to my neighbor and I say, hey, hold this car for my son till he's 18, and by the way, take care of the maintenance on it and everything, and he agrees, we just formed a trust. He can't use that car for his own benefit. He has to hold it for my son till my son is of age to drive the car. That's a trust. It's that simple. Now, trusts can become complex. They can have multiple layers to them and different things, meaning the trustee will have a specific set of rules that they have to follow, along with the grantor or the beneficiary has a specific set of rules that they're under, so to speak. And in a trust situation, the title, which is the receipt to property, is split. Okay, one half of the title goes to the beneficiary, the other half of the title goes to the trustee. The trustee deals with all the legalities, and the beneficiary gets the benefit, the ownership benefit of everything. So the legalities belong to the trustee, but the trustee is not personally legally liable. They're just legally liable for the trust estate, whatever property is in the trust. So when people talk about property tax, a couple of you guys have put things up here, questions here about property tax. Again, property tax is the state taking interest in your plot of land. The thing is you don't own the land. You don't have any ownership. You didn't pay anything for it. Would you pay Federal Reserve notes? Well, you didn't pay anything. There's no substance in a Federal Reserve note. There's no there's monetary value, but there's no substantive value in a promissory note or in a Federal Reserve note, which is a promise to pay. So number one, you don't own the land because you didn't buy it from anyone. And if you did buy it from someone, that person didn't buy it from someone because they used Federal Reserve notes. So you have to go back, decades to get to someone that actually used some sort of lawful money to convey that property. All right. And the government owns the property anyway. That's why you're the tenant. Look on your deed. You're the tenant on your deed. Okay. There are ways to get off the tax rolls. One is a land patent. Very difficult to get. The East Coast is pretty much screwed in the 13 colonies with the land patent. The Western states, a little easier to get, although they're pretty much not giving them out anymore to anyone. Okay? A land patent is a patent on the land. The United States holds that. Why? Because the King of England gave them that patent and said, here, we'll grace you with the patent. So no one owns land here. That's why they stole the land. They didn't come here and have a nice Thanksgiving dinner with the Native Americans and negotiate living here peacefully. They slaughtered them and they took it. That's how they took it. all the land. This is what they've done in all the lands in all the countries through two mechanisms, okay? The right of conquest, which means we're just going to come in and destroy you and take it from you, or the doctrine of discovery, which means, oh, we discovered it, and whoever's living on it, we're just going to remove them. But since we discovered it, and they didn't say that they discovered it, they just happened to be there when we discovered it, we're going to keep it. So that's what they're doing. Okay? The government owns all. You're already trespassing just by being on their land. So, again, it all boils down to human slavery, right? Through all of these mechanisms. It boils down to who is the government? Who are you? What have you stated? What have you done publicly to state your position and who you are? Because they can't mess with the general executor, all right? You don't own, somebody said, what about a car we own? You don't own a car. You don't own it. You have a certificate of title. What is a certificate? A certificate certifies that an original exists. So where's the original title? Where's the original title? If you have a certificate, you have a certification that an original exists. So if you have a certificate of title, you don't have the title, right? So you don't even own your car. State owns it. But how you take that back, I'm not saying that you can't. Remember, it's assumption and presumption. So how you take that back, or how I would take that back, is again, I would step in as the general executor. I would put that vehicle into a trust. I'd say the trust now owns it. Here is your title back, your certificate of title. Here is your license back. Here are your license plates. I don't see any interest of the state in this property. Interest. It's so important. The word interest is so important. It doesn't just mean the 6% or whatever percent you're paying on your loan. That's not interest. Interest is when someone has a right in your property. Some degree of right in your property. That's what interest means. So I would bundle all this up. And I shouldn't even say I would. We've done this. Bundled it all up, sent it to the state. Where is your interest in this property? You have so many days to respond. If you don't respond, we will take this as your agreement that everything is done according to law. And if you do respond and you deny us this right, you must, since you're a municipal corporation, provide me a contract wherein you have established the interest right in this property. And that goes right to the Attorney General, the guy in charge, okay? Now, when they don't respond to that, you have your proof, if you will, not proof, but evidence in your mailing if you've served them proper legal service, which is very easy to do. People don't even understand proper legal service. Proper legal service is certified or registered mail with a return receipt on it, so you have proof that someone signed for it. That's proper legal service. You serve them this. Now, you take all that stuff off and don't call it a vehicle, it's a mobility conveyance. You take everything off the mobility conveyance because a motor vehicle belongs to the state, it's under the statutes of the state. Okay, you take all that away from them. Now, if you want to travel, freely, not being in commerce, if you're not doing any commerce, then you can't be an Uber driver, you can't, collect any money for delivering goods, you can't drive across state lines and do business with the mobility conveyance. That all has to be registered. However, if you were to do this, you would then travel around freely until you get pulled over. Then what's going to happen? Okay, the officers don't know this. They're told that you're a sovereign citizen and you should be thrown in jail because you're a terrorist. That's what they're told. That's what they're instructed. Okay, so we don't use the word sovereign. I'm not a sovereign citizen. Don't even go there with that garbage, because to me it's garbage. However, I know my right to be free as an heir to the kingdom of heaven. If you want to call that a sovereign, that's up to you. You put whatever title you want on it. The only title I recognize is heir to the kingdom of heaven, because that is what the executor is. Okay? The executor has come here to execute the will of God. Okay? Not only execute the will of God, but if there's a piece of property that was created out of the general executor's name, the executor has the right to administrate that property. So this is what people are waking up to. There's a lot of people out on the internet with different views on this. I've had people say, you don't need any of that trust and executor stuff. That's garbage. You don't need any of that. I beg to differ, because I've worked with, I can't even tell you how many people going into court cases and doing different things and seeing that these judges are freaking out when you come in as the executor. You're stripping their power away. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to push back and continue with their fraud. Because when there's a court or a legal situation, they are making millions of dollars off of you that you will never see or understand how that transaction is going on. Because the court is nothing more than a municipal corporation. And here's the problem for these officers. They either have an oath of office or they don't. If they don't, that's treason. And if they do, they've committed treason, because they're also acting like a municipal corporation. So they're wearing two hats in a fraudulent situation to commit acts of war on the American people and on the people of Canada and every other country. That is treason. When you have a municipal corporation that doesn't have a contract with you, as in extracting money from you in an economic warfare situation, which they are in an economic war. We've always been in an economic war. That's why they constantly are in some sort of conflict or some sort of war on something. Because when they do that, they can then say they're protecting you, but really they're raping you. And that's the treason. All right? You do not have the right to rob, steal, rape, and commit war against your people. Period. So, the general executor position, again, for those of you that are new to this stuff, it's super important. Trusts are super important. You want to protect yourself, a trust, or your property, I should say, not necessarily yourself, which does protect yourself in the long run. But property, super, super important to have trusts. The vaccination thing coming down the line, I'm not going to talk too much, say those words too much, because I don't want to, be banned and not get this information out. But that all plays into this stuff as well. Hey, guess what? You guys want to knock on my door and do that? I'm going to beat you to the punch. I'm going to send you, which is what I'm doing, sending you a contract. I'm going to pull your Dun & Bradstreet number. Dun & Bradstreet is the credit bureau for all corporations on earth. I'm going to pull your Dun & Bradstreet number, and I'm going to show you clearly that you're a municipal corporation. Probably going to give you the definition of municipal corporation so you know and we're on the same page, whereas you are this. Then we are going to contract. So I'm going to write a contract, and I'm going to say, look, it's $300 million to come to my house, knock on my door, confiscate my property, give me some sort of health advice or administrate some sort of health mandate or an inoculation, some sort of inoculation. It's $300 million. You agree. We are this is a contract. Notice to principals, notice to agent, notice to agents, notice to principal. This is a contract. To solidify this, to make your agreement, knock on my door. And that's it. So all they have to do now is knock on the door and the agreement is solidified because the Attorney General and others have been notified with the agreement. That is a legal binding agreement. Knock on the door. That's all you got to do. Knock on the door. Let me know you're an agent. Which they will do, of course. We're great. We've got a $300 million contract. So, who's paying? I mean, these things, this is how they operate. It's the same way. When someone's pulled over on the side of the road, that guy's offering you a contract. What he's saying, well, it's twofold. He's getting you to solidify the contract, which was the license, and he's saying this is an infraction under the contract. That's why he needs to see the contract before he gives you the ticket. License and registration, please. Insurance. All part of the contract. Okay, the officer, I see the contract. Now I'm going to give you a ticket for violation of the contract terms. Okay, that's what he's doing. He doesn't know it. He's got no clue that that's what's going on. But that's what's going on in if you you want to call it reality. Nobody really knows what reality is anymore. But, in that dimension of reality, that's what he's doing. He's solidifying the contract. He's giving you an infraction, right? And he's trying to extract money from your account, which is the Social Security account. It's all tied to Social Security, which is the number of the beast. Okay, not the whatever they're doing with these inoculations. That's not the number of the beast. The number of the beast has been here. It's already been here. It's been here since everybody got Social Security back when they did the last reorganization of bankruptcy in the 30s. Okay, everybody's got some sort of social insurance, Social Security. That's the number of the beast, because nothing can be done without it. You can't buy, sell, or trade without it for the most part. Now, I would say that the next number of the beast is the new number of the beast on steroids. So, and that's what they're trying to inject people with. That's a whole. This is all financial. This entire, again, I don't want to use the words because I don't want to be banned, but you all get what I'm saying. This entire thing that's been going on since 2020 is nothing more. It has nothing more to do than property and finance, property and financial economic slavery. It's always been that way. You just haven't seen it until now. Now it's right in your face, but for years you were asleep to it all. Now you're just waking up. Okay, so what they're trying to do is make everyone their property, so you don't have a right to claim your God-given property, because the minute that they put their property into you and change your genetic makeup, now you become their property, and there's no way out after that, because the courts have already ruled that once an organization comes in and genetically modifies something that's natural, it's no longer natural, and it can be patented, it can be owned, but it has to be modified, hence GMO, which is all they're doing is GMOing humans. So, they've done this for years. I mean, this is nothing new. It's just revised. This is just what they do. Okay? Now, if you get into the larger spiritual sense of that, all right, it is the dark, but the dark is not our enemy. The dark is our friend. Okay? These are just dark out of balance is what comes to me, is what is coming to me right now. It's dark out of balance. So the dark is pushing too hard for too much dark, too much negative. And we're saying, no, we're the light ones saying, no, you got to back up. You have to be balanced. You cannot enforce too much dark, because that's not how the universe works. There is a perfect balance of light and dark, the moon, the sun, all right? Everything. There's light and dark in everything. You cannot have electricity without a negative pole and a positive pole. So a lot of us are more positively charged, and these entities that are trying to do this are more negatively charged. So they're trying to push on the light side to overcome it and take over, and the light side is saying, no, we have to balance you out. So this is really a balancing act. As painful as it may seem, as emotional as it may seem, it's just a balancing act of business for the universe. Okay? This is not the first time this has happened in creation in all of the universes. It's not the first time. However, it is time that it doesn't happen to the degree it's happened in the universes before, which was destruction, right? Because that results in destruction. And the plan, as far as I'm told from my downloads, is that is not the plan for this planet. It may be the plan for many people on this planet who are choosing to live subservient to that dark side energy. Okay, that's their choice, right? That's their part of the plan. Our part of the plan is saying, no, we're coming up with solutions on how we're going to push you back into balance. We're going to make sure you're into balance, because this is all about balance. Everything's about balance, right? So that's what we're doing. When I put these up, I'm trying to help people understand how to begin to balance out their self with the system. Okay, because the system's out of balance naturally. When you have out of balance people running a system, that system gets out of balance. I believe we need new systems that are much more balanced. However, trust is so important because trust, when administered properly, keeps the balance. Okay, that's why you see the scales of justice, which right now are like this, like they're totally not balanced, and they haven't been for a long time. Okay, we want to bring those scales of justice back to balance, and we can't do that unless we're knowledgeable, because it's knowledge that wins. It's not fighting anything. It's knowledge. Okay, and again, I put myself in a situation in Kansas to be arrested. I didn't even really, I was just going with what was channeling through me at the moment when the officer pulled me over, and I'm saying, okay, this is not about getting out of a traffic ticket. I could do that very easily. I've done it a million times. I've gotten rid of traffic tickets all the time. Not a problem. However, this is about exposing the municipal corporation, which is trying to access the wealth that's been stolen from me and put into an account by the government. And in order for them to access that account, they need a Social Security number, which I am not at liberty under federal law to give out. Now, an officer doesn't ask you for a Social Security number. He asks for birthday, name, birthday, address, license, and all that, because he's trying to give you a ticket which is attached to that Social Security number. But because I'm knowledgeable enough to know that, I'm saying no. I'm not giving you that information because I'm not contracting with you on the side of the road today. Okay, so I went into a spiel of, sorry, I don't have to give you any information without counsel, which I don't. Okay, so I went into that spiel and they arrested me. My arrest is an opportunity for me to expand. Okay, I'm not afraid that I can't get out of it. That's secondary. You know, the primary objective is to continue tracking their violations. Okay? Continue tracking their violations. And then to do certain procedures that's going to expose the fact that they're merely trying to access this account. Because they are, and I know they are. It's hands down, it's all I gotta do is provide the proof, and that's on its way. So that's a much bigger thing, because I'm saying in the trust that you are, you don't have a right to do this. In the corporation that you are, you do. So if I'm going in and arguing about speeding, unlawful, detainer, and all this stuff under their statutes, all I'm saying is, well, I'm just willing to argue the contract with you, and that's a corporate municipal contract. I'm not arguing that. I'll never argue that. What I'm saying is, you're a trust, you're not a municipal corporation, and in the trust, I'm the beneficiary, and there is a organization with the name that was taken from me. I'm the general executor over that organization, and I'm funding you through that, and you are trying to rob that account and rape me. That's where so when I hit them with this angle, they were stupefied. They don't know what to do because the emperor has no clothes. So they are completely they're scrambling to figure out, what do we do with this guy? What do we do with this guy? The judges don't even know what to do because they're not taught this stuff, but it exists. So, as far as banking and all that stuff, look, I don't know about anybody else. I only know about me. And I know that I don't have any bank accounts. I don't want any bank accounts. I'll never have a bank account. I have trusts that have bank accounts, but I don't have a bank account. Okay? And if they're going to deny me access to that, here's the deal, guys. They need your trust account. They need your Social Security for everything. But federal law says you don't have to give that out. So, all they're trying to do is get you to authorize access to that account. Period. So we need to stop being asleep and wake up and start saying, no. You can't deny me a right or a service simply because I don't give you that number. And if you're a bank and you are issued money from the Federal Reserve, which is a component of the Treasury, federal law says I'm not to give you that number without 3 criteria. It's federal law, Code of Federal Regulations. I am not allowed to give you that number until you tell me, is it mandatory or voluntary? And if they say mandatory, they're in deep shit, because it's not mandatory. It's always voluntary. Okay? Is it mandatory or voluntary? The second thing, what authority do you have to solicit this number from me? You need to state that authority very clearly. Okay? Number 3, what are you using that number for? I need every single thing that you are going to use that number for. Every situation. Until they give you those 3 things, you don't have to give that number out. Okay? You don't. That's federal law, at least here. Now, I would venture to say that in other countries, there's a similar law. You just have to look for it. And I can't do that for you because I don't have enough time. But, that's just some of the small things you do to protect yourself. You have to know what's going on. You have to know that the language is completely the key to all of this, because the language is how they trick you. All right? Just like here in the United States, you'll see, citizen, United States citizen with a lowercase c. You'll see it with an uppercase c. Well, that has a meaning. The word citizen, when it's uppercase c or lowercase, has a meaning. Okay? One, you don't want to be. You don't want to be a lowercase c. Or, you don't want to be the lowercase c. However, what I'm getting at is there is a lot of deceit and trickery through the language. The language is so important. And I just got good at studying the language for the most part for a while. I still do. I always look stuff up. That's how I find the keys to everything. I look at the language and I go, oh, well, what's the legal definition of this? And then when I see what that definition defines and what it entails, I go, oh, yeah, well, how does that apply to me in the situation with the government-created organization with the name that they stole from me, and that organization is a person? How does that relate in the relationship between me, the person, and the government? Okay? So, there's a lot to this. It's not just about common law. It's not just about equity law. It's not just about securities. It's about the whole lot of it, the entire thing. Okay, martial law. We're all under martial law. We've been under martial law for years and years and years. Okay, everybody's under martial law. So, again, it's not just about one specific thing. There is no fill out a piece of paper and you're free. That's never going to happen. You have to be educated. You have to be educated. Because if you're filling out paper and you're putting it in to some sort of government system in any way, okay, eventually you're going to get questions. And they're going to know if you know, merely by the way that you answer. Because if you're just like, well, I'm a free man because I put this paper in. No, you're not. Right? Because that's not how someone who is responsible would operate. Someone who is responsible would know everything about what they're doing so that they can properly administrate their business. That's why they've taken our attention spans away and gotten us away from things that are important, such as business dealings. And that's why we're not taught business, we're not taught law, we're not taught banking as a core education in our schools. Because if we were, we would be able to administrate these estates properly. Okay, but we don't know how to do that. And since we don't know how to do that, they act like mommy and daddy under a guardianship position, which is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be in the guardianship position. You're supposed to be the executor, the conservator over the estate, not them. But because we haven't stepped up to educate ourselves and take that position, they have taken it for us. And they assume and presume that position. And they test you to see if you know what that position is. Once you know that position, they get scared because they don't understand how to administrate it either. They've only been told certain pieces of it and how to question you. That's basically it. But when they see that you're not confident, they know immediately you don't know what you're doing. And when you back down from them, they also will run right over you. So it is extremely important to educate yourself on these things. You're not going to find it in clear-cut terms in any law book. Okay? It is scattered. It took me years and years to be able to read between the lines, to read what's called the white on the page. Okay? Meaning what's not written. That's what's important, because what's written is what is included in that particular context. But that doesn't mean that that context doesn't fit 100 other things that are in the white, that aren't in that text. So you have to really read and understand that whatever topic you're reading in the law, whatever thing you're reading in the law applies to a much broader scope. It's not just, oh, well, this applies only to these statutes and codes. And that's just how it is. That's not how it is. So let's break that down for people who are into reading statutes and codes. Okay, that is corporate law for a municipal corporation. So people go, statutes and codes, that's not law. Some of the patriot people, right? That's not law. Well, yes, it is law. It's law, and that's where people go wrong. You are assuming it's not law because you have a free man, you're a man, that doesn't apply to you. It absolutely does apply when you don't know who you are in the law. And when there's a contract, and it's not even really so much contracts as agreements. Agreements and contracts are a little bit different. So, statutes and codes are law for the organization they were written from and for. Okay? Now, the color of law is when that law is applied as if it is constitutional law or some other type of law, right? Now that's coloring the law because you've taken this body of law that applies here and you've applied it over here where it doesn't belong. So you're coloring the law over here with this law, okay? So let's see, you're so right. So somebody said, you're so right, I hold a CJ law degree and never learned any of this during my studies in college. That's the truth. I mean, my very good friend's a brother of mine. He's been an attorney for 20 plus years. He will come right on here and tell you, we are taught none of this, and the shit that he learns from me is mind-blowing to him, right? Because he wasn't taught any of this. But when he and I work together, it's bam, because he's on the public side with what the process and procedures are in the system, in the administrative processes, and I'm on the other side with the private substance to fill the process with, okay? And that is really, really important. And if we had more, law students and attorneys that would open their mind and not worry about losing their status in society and losing their bar card, then they would open their mind, we would be able to get a lot further, a lot faster. Unfortunately, in all my years of doing this and dealing with well over 100 attorneys, trying to talk to them, the immediate thing is shut down. You're proving me wrong. I have an ego. I've got a status. I can't hear this. I'm scared they're going to paint me out as a crazy. I'm scared they're going to take my bar. All these thoughts happen within a flash of a second and they shut down. And they don't want to hear it. So, unfortunately, that's occurring, and I've been lucky enough to befriend a guy that's not like that. He's a man of God, and he's an awesome guy, and we are like best friends, peas and carrots. So, he validates a lot of this stuff that that he says that we're not taught this, we're not taught this, we're not taught any of this. So it is really, really important, again, to just start looking at this stuff. If you don't understand it, if it hurts your brain. I get it, but at this point, if that is not in you to do that, then what that tells me, again, in a channeled information sense, if you will, is that you're probably not part of the first wave. You're probably part of the second or the third or maybe even the fourth, because there are waves on this planet of souls that have come to root and establish these concepts, principles, systems for the next wave and the next wave and the next wave of souls who are going to come in and have the structure so that they can perform their work. A lot of us are first waivers, so we're in here anchoring the system, the new systems, by exposing the old ones, and that's what we're here to do. But if you are not motivated to study and do this stuff, you're going to have to be extremely faithful, non-fearless, and definitely grouping with people that are studying it, okay? Because that's where your safety is going to be for the moment. So, somebody said, ever think of writing that book? I've been told that I should be writing books for years now. I just don't have the time. I wish I did. If I had somebody that could sit here and listen to everything that I say and organize it all and put it into a book, that would be phenomenal. But I don't have the time for it, unfortunately. So right now, REM Private Management, we help people understand these concepts. The website is privateestatetrust.org, and we need to do a lot of work to the website. It's hard for me because I can't get to it, and I can't have anybody else do the content because it's got to come from me. So I have to get the website more robust, but there is enough stuff up there to get you going for now at privateestatetrust.org. The YouTube is REM Private Management. I haven't posted anything recently. I probably will here soon. REM Private Management. You want to help out in my Kansas arrest case? I have a page on REM Private Management website, House of Marcus. It is called Kansas Arrest, and you can view everything on there that I did, my paperwork, all that stuff, even my errors, my typos in my paperwork, which I find to be hilarious. That I'm the guy teaching a lot of this stuff, and I got like these major typos, which I don't worry about because typos don't mean anything legally, but it's funny. Anyway, you can check all that stuff out. You can watch the videos. You can do your research and look up the state of Kansas and these other organizations on Dun & Bradstreet. I have a document on there that I submitted as evidence with a snapshot, a screenshot of all their Dun & Bradstreet numbers. You can fill out an affidavit for me and say that you witnessed all this stuff by going on and checking this stuff out, and you agree that this all exists, and you fill out that affidavit, get it notarized, and send it back to me, and that becomes part of our public awareness in my case. So they can't say that the public, if I have 2 or more affidavits, which I already have plenty, okay, it screws them completely, because you have a group of people in the world, not even in this country, but people from other countries have sent them in too, that agree this is what it is. Okay, this is what the state is. This is how they're operating. So in law, they have to rebut that and say, well, no, we're not. Well, where's your proof? I've got people in the public around the world that agree with this, and they've written an affidavit affirming that they've done that under God. They've affirmed, not swore, because we don't swear, but they've affirmed under God that this is true. And in the legal world, an affidavit is evidence. Okay, so then it can become proof when there's enough people. So if people want to participate, that's what you can do. I don't have any classes that you can enroll in yet. Again, that's all part of the work I have to do. I'm just one man, and it's hard to push the envelope and then help people and also teach all at the same time. Because, man, I mean, you can't imagine the amount of pressure that I get put under to perform on a daily basis. I mean, I've got my own stuff now that I have to do. It's not even my own stuff. I don't want to be selfish like that. It's for all of us, but it has to be done, and it has to go through me so that I can understand how to then give this gift back to you, because if it doesn't come through me and I don't live it, I can't really articulate it to you to help you. So I have to go through it. And I'm going through it. I'll be speaking at the Health Freedom for Humanity Symposium in October. For those of you that can get out to Kansas City, Missouri, I'll be speaking there. I'm also going to start doing seminars, traveling, holding seminars, things like that. So, again, this is all about education. People want a solution. People want a solution, right? Everybody's, well, what's the solution? What's the solution? Right now, the solution is education. Because so far, I've not seen a single solution that takes care of all of this in one fell swoop. The solution is education, action, and coming together to solidify this in these systems and say, this is over. And when someone comes to you with this status, so to speak, the status of a free man, the status of an executor, the status of a national, the status of someone that's not in your corporate realm, here's how you will treat them. That's when we'll have the solution. Okay, so we just got to keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it. The reason I don't tout solutions or remedies is because people get all excited, they run over to you, they try this or that, and they find out it's not a solution. Because the minute they get questioned, they fail because they don't understand it. So that's not a solution.